Greeting educators, this is Global Educators. I'm your host, Baika, and thank you for watching. This is another episode where we talk about how to create a better place for the next generation. Today's speaker is Faust Ruggiero, a psychologist who has been in private practice for over 35 years. Before entering private practice, he worked in clinics for deaf children, prisons, nursing homes, substance abuse centers, inpatient facilities, and is a consultant for a major national and international corporation. This episode is called Fix Your Internal Language. I'm super excited to have this opportunity to interview Mr. Faust. He is a published research author and a professional clinical trainer. So I hope you stick around and listen to all of the golden knowledge that he would like to share with our audience. So first of all, thank you for coming on our show. And please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Faust Ruggiero. I'm a psychologist and an author. I have a program called the Fix Yourself Empowerment Series. It's 6 books so far. And the latest book is the Fix Your Internal Language Handbook, which is what we're talking about today.
Thank you. Please tell us a little bit about your book.
The book is something that I've wanted to do for a while. Like no one's wants to admit that they talk to themselves, but we all talk to ourselves since we think with language. The concern that I've always had is that so many of us have so much negative language, whether it's about ourselves, the way our life is going on, or people in our lives. So the book is dedicated to looking at some of those, the way we think and how we can change that to be more positive and obviously more happy and more powerful.
That's amazing. I was recently talking to one of my students about the different neurodiversities, and he asked me what schizophrenia is like. And I was like, okay, I'm not really an expert, but I do know that people who with schizophrenia have a tendency to talk to themselves, right? And then he was asking me like, what if I talk to myself like, what, like pep talk, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or like, I can do it. Like, is this schizophrenia? I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's schizophrenia. But anyways, what is like is it normal for, like you said, it's normal, everyone talks to themselves. What is like a normal amount, would you say, is okay for to when you're talking to yourself?
Well, the first thing I think we need to do is just define what that internal language is. If you're in conversations with yourself and some other person who's not there, that's probably not a good idea. If your conversation is based on perceptions that aren't realistic, that's a problem. Simple conversations like something's bothering you, a problem you have to fix, or just happy dialogue in your head, that's all good. And so it's important for listeners to understand that talking to yourself is a good thing. It's just that you want what's going on in your head to be positive. That's all.
That's amazing. Thank you. And what kind of motivated you to write this last one?
Well, again, I want people to understand that if you go positive in your mind, it works for you. Think about it. If I get up today and I'm down on myself and I can't do this and that's bothering me and I don't like that person, that's the way my day's going to go. But if I get up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to really attack this day. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to challenge myself. I think I can do these things. If people are out there and maybe they're negative, I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm going to keep my day positive. That's a whole different way to arrange your mind and then subsequently the way your day's going to go.
Let's talk about the main content of the book. The first part, we talk about how to manage depression. So, how can someone manage depression, and how does your book teach people, or not teach, but like give people the tools to manage depression?
Yeah, the two things I talk about with, well, I would talk about with depression. First, is it clinical depression? Is it a neurotransmitter problem? Talking to yourself isn't going to deal with something that physical, and you may need some medical intervention. But even if that's the case, being able to be positive in your head doesn't have you focusing for long periods of time on negative things. And if you're doing that, that's what you get stuck in. When I'm treating depressed people, I'll say, good, let's try this little thing. Tomorrow I'll say, okay, I can do that. I can get up and I can go out for a walk. I can try to do that chores around the house, whatever. Get yourself into a positive dialogue. I'm going to try, I'm going to give it my best shot. No matter what's going on in your life, if you can do that, it makes it that much better.
Awesome, thank you. What is a difference between clinical depression and other depressions?
Well, clinical depression is more physically based. It's a neurotransmitter problem, chemical imbalance, as we like to call it. Other people can get depressed over environmental things. My relationship broke up. I'm having problems. The job is not going so well. Things in my life, physically, maybe I got some problems going on. So we may dwell on those things that are going on in our lives, but clinical depression can just start, on the turn of a dime, so to speak. It just happens, and all of a sudden we're depressed and we don't know why.
So you did mention chemical imbalances. What are some
hmm
ways people can balance the chemicals? How can they treat the areas that are impaired in your
Well,
opinion?
again, I always tell people go to your doctor first. Let's make sure of what's there. In terms of what you're talking about, the first thing I tell people with all the time is keep your body healthy. And if you're eating all these terrible foods, if you're smoking a lot of pot, if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you don't exercise, all of those things are going to pull at your body regardless. The healthier your body is, obviously, the better chance you have to fight depression, anxiety, and anything else that comes in your life.
Getting your internal balance back, how and why should we do it?
Well, internal balance is an interesting concept. That's actually the subject of my first book. Um, Essentially, internal balance simply says as humans, we are physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual beings. So all those things are working in us at the same time. We keep our body healthy. We learn how to keep our emotions in check so they don't keep us, feeling psychotic in our heads. We keep our intellects clear so we can process information. We try to connect with the spiritual part of ourselves if we can. All of those things create a balance. If we're doing all those things, it balances us out. The Buddhists would call that nirvana. Well, I call it internal balance. When you're operating like that, everything remains calm. You have a lot of energy, clarity of thought, emotions aren't overriding your brain. You feel good.
Because one of my students asked me this question the other day, and unfortunately, I did not have the answer. The whole purpose of these episodes is to learn from the experts so I can be a better teacher. He was telling me about he is at home with parents, grandparents, siblings. He's not alone, but he still feels lonely. And he's a high school kid. And he says when he's at home, he has the wildest negative thoughts. And when he's at school, when he's with friends, he feels happier. And he was asking me, how do I control my negative thoughts? I'm like, can you, and I give him a few ideas like, have you tried journaling? Have you done this? Have you done this? He said, no, I've done everything. It doesn't work. Yeah, what would your advice be to someone who is battling negative thoughts despite having a supportive family, a good community?
If all the conditions in his life seem to be positive and he's struggling, now we're probably talking about that clinical depression that I was saying earlier. That could be chemical imbalance. That could be the neurotransmitters. There, I say go see the family doctor first. Make sure everything physically is okay, because sometimes it's not only neurotransmitters. There may be other physical things going on. Let's get the physical out of the way so we can say medically you're okay. If that's the case and it continues, then I say go see a counselor, because it sounds like, regardless of what's happening, when you're alone, everything's just going down. It's collapsing. You're getting dark. Go talk to a counselor. Having that person who can understand you and work with you and get a lot of information, that's probably a missing link here. So I always tell people, if it's not getting better and you're trying everything, go talk to someone. Get someone else, get a little someone else on your team. Get out of your own head and and share those things with someone, which is what he seemed like he started to do with you.
Okay, thank you. At least I can be a little bit of help to him. So next question is, can stress play a major part in someone's mood and mental awareness?
Absolutely. Not only does it make us become more emotional and more stressed out, all those kinds of things, it produces chemicals in the body that challenge the brain, that make us get more anxious, that make us less healthy, chemicals like cortisol. So yeah, stress changes everything. I always tell people, for me, I can work a strenuous 8 hour day and feel pretty good yet, and I have 1 hour of stress, and that seems to take me down farther than 8 hours of work. Stress has that much of an effect on our body. So if there are some things that are causing stress, you want to try to eliminate those, or at least get to the point where you can discuss those with someone.
Is it the same for any age, or is it
Yeah, it
less?
really is. I can treat young kids that are 6 and 7, and when they're stressed, I'm seeing physical problems come up. I'm seeing them depressed. I'm seeing them anxious and crying and angry and throwing fits and all those things. And when we get to what's causing it, that seems to begin to settle things.
How can our internal language shape our thoughts?
Well, that's the crux of the matter. If we decide that we're going to try to go positive with what we do, then what we're really doing is we're retraining our brain. That's what positive language does. If we're negative, we've trained our brain to think in negative terms. And I'm sure you can see throughout the world, everyone's attacking everyone else routinely. When you get to the point that it's positive, you don't feel the need to attack anyone. You don't feel the need to get down on yourself. Your world changes because you're retraining your brain to think in positive terms. And what we do internally it comes out in the external world. And the other thing about being positive with our internal language is that negative external world doesn't come in and have quite the effect on us that it did because it comes into a kind of a positive language force field. I always say it comes in, it doesn't have any place to go because our minds are positive.
What is one advice for parents to help their students with to de-escalate stress?
First thing I tell parents is make sure you're doing it yourself. Parents come in the office and they're all stressed out and they tell me about their kids. And I say, well, wait a minute, what's your day like? And then they tell me about all the stressors and the negativity and the problems in their lives. And I say, what are you doing about that? Is it coming out at home? Well, yeah, probably. I said, well, if that's the case, then I say, take care of yourself first. Make sure you're okay. Then sit down and talk with your kids. There's that connection that seems to be missing. A lot of times they'll come to you in school and say, well, I need this. And I say, well, did you go home and say that to your parents? No. Well, gee, mom and dad are busy. They're not home. They're on their phones all the time. I get all that kind of stuff. Make sure you're doing all the things you need to do and then talk with your kids. It actually points to what you need to do.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask, like the phones and this new whole digital era,
Yeah.
is that creating more stress or is it de-stressing us?
In the long run, it creates more stress. It seems like it's taking care of stress. And what people will do is they'll jump on their phones or their iPads or whatever they're using and disassociate from all the things they should be doing. But what they're plugging into a lot of times is what's going on in social media and the negativity and this thing in the government or whatever it may be. And and then it takes them away from their responsibilities. It disconnects them from their kids. So now it produces more stress because nothing's being done, nothing's being solved. So what I always tell parents is get all your things done first. Take care of your work, take care of your home, take care of your kids. Now, later in the day, if you want to spend some time, on your phone, that's fine. Try not to do it before you go to bed because people aren't sleeping because they are spending an hour before they go to bed on phones and their minds are now so engaged they can't fall asleep. Try to disconnect, try to have a schedule for electronics and keep it at a minimum. You don't really need it.
Speaking of political issues and governmental issues, since we see them every day on social media, should we let those directly impact or affect our day-to-day mood?
What I tell people is, first of all, when it comes to social media, world news, all those kinds of things, the first thing you have to do is determine whether it's real news or not. People love to be in the limelight, to get their soapbox time, so they post all these different kinds of things. If I see something posted on social media, the first thing I do is I go back to search engine, what Google, whatever it may be, and I put the topic in to see if it's real. 8 out of 10 times, it's not. So now you're responding to something that someone made up. And people do that just to get everybody, just to get you going. So that's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is examine the facts. Make sure you're not, if it's getting you emotional, that's a problem already because you're using your emotions to address the issue. Try to address the facts and address them with your intellect, and then decide what you need to do with them. If you're not going to do anything, and you're just going to respond emotionally, you're making yourself, you're creating so much stress and anxiety in your life, and it has no place to go.
How can we alter our internal language to be more positive?
The best way, I always say, start it this way. First, slow down. It's hard to do anything if you're going very fast. Your emotions take over. The next very important step is to be conscious about what you're thinking. Negative thoughts come right in. It's like autopilot. It comes in and they just start. As soon as they start, stop and say, I'm not going to think about that. That's the first thing you do. Then say, instead of that negative thing, I'm going to think about this positive thing. Then you have a new subject. Now develop that thought and start thinking about that. It's very simple. But you have to keep on doing it. It'll take 6 months or so to retrain your brain, but all of a sudden you'll say, you know what? I'm not thinking about all that negative stuff, and I'm not feeling angry. Every time it happens, I stop the thought. I say I'm going to think about this, and then I go develop that thought.
Thank you so much. Where can people find your book?
Like the easiest way to find me and anything about me is my website. It is my name, FaustRuggiero.com. There they'll find excerpts from the books. You can buy the books there. They'll find media things, all things like we're doing today there. There's a contact link also. If people want to contact me, they can do that, and I do get back to them.
I will add all of the important details and links in the description. Make sure to go check it out. One last question as we wrap up. What is your one last message to anyone listening to this podcast?
The best thing I can tell people is begin to understand yourself as a person who has the potential to be a powerful person. Uh, don't let negative thoughts, negative language from other people, all those things rule your life. Put positive, powerful language in your mind. Develop your internal language that way, and then turn that outward. You'll be surprised at how your world changes.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Faust Ruggiero, for taking this time to share with your golden wisdom and knowledge to our audience. I hope yes, I know someone will benefit and find this helpful. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a comment and make sure you watch out for new episodes just like this. Goodbye till then. Whose responsibility do you think it is? Is it more parents or teachers' responsibility to teach students how to use their intellect rather than emotions?
We teach kids, we send them to school to give them lessons and have them hone their intellect and become brighter people. But at home, if your kids come to school and you're teaching them, then they go home and no one's doing anything with them, the lessons you teach them stop when they leave school. But parents should be able to say, let's go over what you did in school and see how they're going to reinforce it. How was school? The kid says fine, and that's the end of the conversation. That's terrible. And parents will say, well, they won't tell me anything. And I said, well, you have more control over that. You're going to say, we're gonna go through all those things. Parents should be talking to teachers. There's email. We're doing things differently today. Talk to the teachers. See what your child's doing in class. Bring it home, reinforce it there.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, should parents monitor students' social media content?
Absolutely. We're asking people who really haven't gained a good a way of controlling their lives to go onto social media, um, have all this fake stuff, all this stuff that's there to impact them emotionally, and ask them to be able to address it. They're not skilled in those things yet. And a lot of parents will often say, well, I have to get in there and police the whole thing. I said, no, you just have to share the time with them. Why don't you get on social media with them and teach them how to use it together? It's one more thing where you can bond with, where you can get to know your kids, you can share, and you can teach them, hey, here's a primary vehicle in your life. Let's look at a great way for you to use it. If you do that, it's a win-win all the way around.
I feel like a lot of internal negative thoughts that the new generation get, a lot of the ideas they get is from social media. And it's like, yeah, it's even hard for us to kind of have normal conversations with them because they're like, oh no, TikTok said this, no, Facebook said this. I'm like, can you verify it? And like, of course, they're young, so they can't verify it yet because they're like, I don't know. Because I'm speaking of like young teenagers, like middle schoolers. High schools
Mhm.
are more different. High schoolers are way more, they can verify and discern better than middle school, but middle school students, they absorb literally everything, and it's hard to have like a just a conversation with them. It's going to turn into a debate. Or like, you took my
What I
phone
do, I
away.
don't debate with them. I ask them questions. I say, okay, you said this happened. You saw it on TikTok. Okay. Let me ask some questions about it. And what'll happen is after about two or three questions, they're done because they haven't been able to research it. So then I teach. I use that. I said, okay, let's look at this. Here's what I do. And I get all the best information, and they want to hear that now. They say, when I see it on TikTok, then I go into Google and I type it in to see if it is somewhere else, if it's real. Is are some of the papers carrying it? Is it all those kinds of things? And then even in junior high, they start doing that, and they'll come back into counseling and say, I did that, what you told me to do, and what was on TikTok wasn't real, or what was on Facebook, I couldn't find it anywhere else. I said, well, if you couldn't find it anywhere else, someone posted it just to kind of trick you. So don't let people trick you. Go check. That's what I do with everything. Then they start doing it, and they're so thrilled that they have this little power thing they can do. They come back in the next day and say, guess what I found? And it wasn't real. So, we can make it a fun experience. We don't have to make this something that seems so hard to do and so negative. We can make it a positive thing, a game, so to speak.